Have you ever thought about giving it all up and selling it all, settling for just one watch instead of several? By which I mean, if it all went tits up and you had to sell it all and have just one watch, which would it be? Some people save for a rainy day, others plan for the apocalypse. I think about the kind of watch I could buy with not too much money that could sustain me through a dry spell. There's 15 such thoughts here today, each one cheaper than the last. The one at the very end will be so cheap, in fact, that it'll actually owe you money. It's also really controversial and may lose me my watch license. If you've got a hankering to support my wristwatch spankering, there's a little something in it for you by way of this lovely Humbled and Blessed sweater, the perfect accompaniment for the next time you get the call from the AD. I have a bunch of other merchandise as well if you're so inclined to follow the link in the description below. Thank you very, very much. Now, I recognise the irony of choosing 15 different watches that could be one and done, but hear me out a minute. Different people have different tastes, and so what could satiate one person for a long time could be another man's bromont. So these watches are a mix of styles and features, so there's sure to be something that suits your inevitable downfall. We're starting classy because a traditional dress watch these days is a surprisingly versatile addition to any collection, or indeed in place of the collection you had to sell to pay for your kids' tuition. If only Coco Melon did PhD videos as well. Nevertheless, Frederique Constant has got your back at a little under £3,000, by far the most we'll spend today, with the classic date manufacture. Whilst that might sound like an MTV matchmaking show dedicated to the elderly, Deirdre's husband passed 3 years ago from a complication following a septal defect, and now she's looking to fill a hole in her own heart. What we've actually got is a particularly alluring selection of specifications packed into a 40mm steel case that makes Cary Grant look like a hobo's toenail. The features are refined yet sturdy, so it'll play nice with a t-shirt, and the sub-dial pointer date with a red accent at the end of the month feels just the right side of stuffy. This isn't a skinny watch at 11.8mm thick, but it's not a chunky either, so it really does veer comfortably into casual without too much of a challenge. Slap it on a canvas strap for unconventional beach fun. With 50 meters of water resistance, it'll survive a quick paddle too. 72 hours of power reserve from the in-house FC706 caliber won't be a concern when you've got no other watch to wear. But even so, knowing something's in there that's a little bit more interesting than your typical Solita may make the agony of only having one watch that little bit easier to stomach. If you want something that straddles the line between sporty and elegant a little bit better, then why not save yourself 45 whole pounds and cull that collection for a Longines Spirit Zulu time instead. Part of the Spirit collection, which celebrates founder John Longines' drinks cabinet, the Zulu time takes this bar crawl international with a GMT complication. As well as looking every bit the luxury travel companion, the Spirit Zulu time is packed with trick bits. The ceramic insert in the bidirectional bezel is split into night and day in shades of black and grey, presumably based on a typical 24 hours in England. The case can resist up to 100 meters of water, keeping the silicon balance spring inside free from the wet stuff. No, your ears did not lie to you. This sub £3,000 watch has a silicon balance spring for extra magnetic resistance. It pays to be protected. You might be wondering what the 5 stars are all about. No, the Paramount Pictures logo didn't get lost. It's a historical throwback to when Longines gave its watches ratings to denote their high quality and reliability. Although, these days, I'm sure they're just paying for them on Fiverr. As always with Longines, the build quality is exceptionally high for the price point, and of course the brand is steeped in a rich history everyone's forgotten anyway. Add in the ability to track multiple time zones, here denoted not by Greenwich Mean Time, but by the more atypical military Zulu moniker, and you've got yourself a side piece that'll keep on ticking wherever you go. It's Zulin time. The concept of a go anywhere, do anything watch is a bit flawed really, because the implication is it's a license to break the law. The GADA defense has never been attempted, but if you were to try, the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Lumiere is a good watch to try it with. The demons told me to, and Jesus lives in my butt defenses are well used and hackneyed by this point if anything. Time to try something different. If Andy Byron had been wearing a Trident Lumiere, perhaps he would have got away with it. What makes the Lumiere the ultimate alibi? It's basically built for every condition you can think of. In titanium, it's lightweight, so it won't slow you down whether on foot or in a car chase. It's got a fully loomed unidirectional diving bezel to time an alibi like oversleeping down to the second. The 41mm by just under 11mm thick case is chunky enough to prevent a glove from fitting. You know, all the important stuff. But where the Lumiere really earns its keep on an everyday basis is with a luminous output to rival the Fukushima coastline. With solid blocks of globalite for the markers, hands, and even the controversial Swish logo, you'll have drivers at night flashing you to turn off your high beams. On the pavement. In many ways, it's easier to tell the time on this thing in the dark than the light, and under normal daytime viewing conditions, there's already more contrast than a barium enema. At £1,985 on a matching titanium bracelet with on-the-fly micro-adjust, plus 300 meters of water resistance matched with a helium escape valve and a chronometer-certified Sellita SW300, it's the perfect excuse to get up to anything. If we explore the GA part of GADA just a little bit more, the Go Anywhere part, we'll see that Anywhere does indeed include the world. Said world is also part of the broader solar system, galaxy, local group, supercluster, and indeed universe. But one step at a time, we'll stick to just world for now. Which is handy because Mido's Ocean Star now comes in Worldtimer configuration, adding an ability for xenophobes to explore the countries they wished people would go back to. As the early part of the name suggests, the Ocean Star is a diver's watch, with the latter adding the ability to track global time zones, albeit at the expense of a dive bezel. Having said that, if you're willing to completely revisit counting and supplant numbers for cities, it can still work. The time? Cairo past Sydney o'clock. As with all clever bezel operations, it's a pretty simple mechanism, assigning cities to hours that, when correctly aligned, read off the local times around the world. Granted, it's not like a GMT watch. You do have to align your local city with the local hour when you want to see what's going on everywhere else. But it's a simple procedure even Willie King's surgeon couldn't mess up. Dive bezel aside, there's still 200 meters of water resistance kicking about in this thing, so it'll take whatever you can throw at it. Well, maybe not everything, but anything you'd be happy having thrown at you whilst you're wearing it at least. As part of the Swatch clan, it gets the Powermatic 80 caliber plus a delightful bun strap you'll be pleased to leave in the box. £1,200 for this Mobius Mondrian. With this next watch, we're flirting so hard with the £1,000 barrier, it's asking for Angela. This is the £1,090 Doxa Sub 200 Sharkhunter. And sure, you might think switching from the Beads of Rice bracelet to a cheaper rubber choice would bring that price down below £1,000, but strangely it only saves £40. So get the bracelet. Also get the rest of the watch too, because in stainless steel bezel insert form, it's absolutely nailed the effortless vintage vibe to an incredible degree. The darker sapphire bezel version is good too, but there's something about the steel that just feels cool. Take it from me, a professor of coolness from the cool university, Coolidge. Doxa continues to be a vastly underrated brand, not just because it builds sweet watches for value dollar, but because it was also right in the thick of the Rolex Omega Royal Rumble back in the 60s. Village submarine Jacques Cousteau, who wore dive watches from Rolex, Omega and Blancpain, also appreciated a good Doxa, or whatever let him get up close and personal with the aquatic. In the silent world, no one can hear fish scream. To clarify on a slightly misleading name, the Sub 200 doesn't only go down to 199 meters, but the full 200. Whilst we're talking about confusing nomenclature, the dial color is indicated by an associated term. Sharkhunter in the case of black, Sea Rambler for silver, Caribbean for blue, Professional for orange, and USS Indianapolis for red. At 42mm by 13.8, it'll take a beefy wrist to pull off the Sub 200, but if you've got what it takes, you won't want to take it off. If the level of watch nonsense here is just too damn low, there's plenty more where that came from over on my Patreon, where these lovely people go to support me. We have watch chats, I post unfiltered video thoughts, we all egg each other on to buy watches we probably shouldn't. You know how it goes. If you want in, links in the description. Thank you. We've had Speedmaster, we've had GMT Master, we've had Rail Master, and we've had Seamaster. But the skill we were really crying out to be dominated by Switzerland's finest was jazz. Thanks to Hamilton, the art of playing all the notes in no particular order has been brought to the hands of us mere mortals with the Jazzmaster Performer Automatic. A round of clicks, please, to show your appreciation that we're now just under £1,000 for this little number, set on a steel bracelet and dressed with an ice blue dial. There's something incredibly sharp about this watch that's hard to put your finger on, unlike the bracelet on a Q Timex, that somehow blends crisp, clean design with a pervading timelessness that's sure to keep that new watch itch at bay. Think of it like E45 cream for wrists. As another Swatch Group stablemate, it's a solid watch built in Switzerland, just enough to qualify for the hallowed script. And despite its smaller 38mm size, still enjoys a plump 100 meters of water resistance. It's the second instance of the Powermatic 80, here called the H10, but what really makes it a permanent member of the one-horse stable is the grand Seiko-esque feel for less than half the price. Clock the full-length case and centerlink bevels and you'll see what I mean. Grenchen may sound like a school headmistress dreamt up by Roald Dahl, but is in fact the Swiss home of watch brand Nivada, recently revived to bring affordable options to the retro vintage menagerie. The newest addition to the Nivada lineup adds a little something extra, however, a bipolar personality that makes its £950 price tag a bit of a twofer. Perhaps you yourself have partaken in the online debate regarding artificially aged loom. Whether you're for it or against it, there's no denying its inclusion or otherwise can bring a completely different feel to a watch. Going from crisp white to deep yellow adds a sense of richness to pretty much anything but a bedsheet. Well, with the Nivada Aquamar, that need no longer be a decision you're obliged to make, because in lieu of a date wheel is an alternating marker disc that flips the watch from pristine box fresh to aged like old cheddar. So whether you're in one camp or the other, you're set to be satisfied. And who knows, a little bit of dabbling in the extreme may reveal something about yourself that may surprise you. The 38mm case is nicely sized for this skin diver aesthetic, and a 200-meter water resistance makes it more than costume jewellery. If you want to push the rib out just a bit further, there's a grey addition to the black and blue dial choices that sports a different marker style that switches from a combo of white and red to red and white. It's a little known fact that actor James Mason's younger brother was actually born a watch, and here he is today to outlive his sibling as the Strat-o-timer GMT. In Lone Star configuration, this Jack Mason brings shades of Rolex whether you're travelling north by northwest, or indeed in any direction. The prominent blue and red Pan Am coloration is a dead giveaway of this watch's inspiration. However, the rest of the arrangement does a good job of modifying the original far enough to steer clear of copyright infringement. The case is inflated a little for a cushion-light profile, a Jubilee bracelet celebrating a few extra years on the throne with 5 centerlinks instead of 3. And of course the dial configuration in white is the polar reverse of what we're used to seeing on the GMT Master. Having said that, the original Pan Am Pilot's GMT Master was available in a limited run with a lighter white dial for the Aviation Authority's executives, so it's not entirely original. It is, however, entirely affordable at £870, and with chunky hands and markers further separating it from that cross-continental original, is a safe wear for anyone with an aversion to the homological. It may not be a safe wear in London, however, so perhaps another colour combo from the Strat-o-timer collection may be better for city dwellers, of which there are many. Two particular favourites are the red and white Dr. Pepper and the black and brown edition. That's that Mi Espresso, or you could switch it up like Nintendo. If it's only the taste of Pepsi that'll quench your thirst, however, then you'll be pleased to know that Jack Mason has chosen to stick 2 pieces of ceramic together rather than Rolex's approach of blending blue and red in a single piece like an idiot. 40mm of summer fun with a Miyota 9075 GMT caliber could easily become a lifelong commitment. The theme of keeping track of what the neighbours are up to continues with the Arken Alterum, which presents a completely different approach to monitoring 2 time zones. By the way, that claim only stands up so long as you don't look at Vacheron Constantin's back catalogue. Instead of a 24-hour hand for the GMT, it's a paltry 12-hour, but that's where the boss-eyed apertures left and right come in. Those are day-night indicators, one for local and one for home, to be found orbiting a point-to-date subdial on the lower half of the watch. Bung all this in an integrated titanium case, water-resistant to 200 meters, and you've got yourself a watch you could wear on just about any occasion. Well, maybe not a Vacheron Constantin appreciation dinner, but you could get away with it at any other dinner, just about, because the case barrel is actually only 38mm, making this seemingly sporty option a surprisingly restrained wear. An affordable but reliable Miyota 9015, modified to provide the time zone functionality, keeps things reasonably priced at just £600, making the Alterum a bit of a waitlist fiend. Happy owners are willing to share that the wait is indeed worth it. The prices just keep tumbling on affordable skin diver options, and for the £550 Maen Hudson 38, the combo remains unbroken. This is the fourth version of Maen Hudson, refined over time to offer one of the best Swiss-made dive watch value packages, this side of a time machine. For the Mark IV, the 38mm steel case and its bezel have been revised from the ground up, offering a greater mix of finishes to make it not just better looking, but easier to use. For example, the crown and bezel teeth have been reprofiled, so you don't need a Darth Vader death grip to use them. The chunky, unique hands pair well with the red accents for a distinctive picture that neither feels too derivative nor trying too hard to be different. It feels lifted from the pages of a fictional brand trying desperately in the 60s to keep up with Rolex. A lightly textured dial further adds a certain je ne sais tarmac, a bit more interesting than the usual matte or gloss. For the watch to come on a bracelet at this price, with a Sellita SW200 included, not to mention 300 meters of water resistance, is pretty impressive, and continues a positive trajectory of further democratizing the meeting of man and machine. Because the watch brand is called Maen? Oh, forget it. Remember when Jody of Just One More Watch brought out the affordable Erebus? Well, it could conceivably be just one last watch for you if your collecting days are over, and it's a pretty decent way to bow out. With prices starting at £400, it's just about the best level of quality you can get on a basic bitch timekeeper without figuring out how to import from China. As well as simple black and white dial options, the 39mm Ascent, also available in 34, 36 and 41, is the sweet spot, the one that Rolex gave up on for reasons known only to Rolex and the jar with Hans Wilsdorf's brain in it. Well, their loss is your gain, because you can also upscale your optimally sized experience with an array of 12 dazzling, Jody's words not mine, colours, each more colouringly than the last. You could deck out your Miyota 9015 with a swirling blue helix, for example, reminiscent of the Grand Seiko SBGH367, but here with a cool name and not a two-factor authentication code. Or the orange Fume Sunburst, an artist's depiction of what a Taco Bell toilet sees. There's also Malachite, Mother of Pearl, Tiger's Eye and Aventurine too, if you like getting stoned. One of my favourite things in the world is just outside of it, space, and the people who made it possible to get there are amongst some of my favourite human beings to walk the planet, or just above it. Whilst we've all heard of the big space names like Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and of course Katy Perry, there are so many more people involved to make an extraterrestrial journey happen, and Seiko should take commercial advantage of that. One such gentleman was Gene Kranz, flight director of the Apollo 11 mission and lead flight director of Apollo 13. Needless to say, the man is an absolute legend, staying as cool and resourceful as the astronauts themselves as they negotiated the various challenges on set. Kranz's timekeeper of choice wasn't the astronauts' favourite GMT master, but something rather more down-to-earth, so to speak, a Seiko. And it's a Seiko that Seiko have revived as a new Seiko that looks very much like the old Seiko. In £400 in SRPL011 form, it's an exact rendition of Gene's original. Silver dial, cushion case, everything. It is, I suppose I should say, also available with a black dial for people who like making the wrong decision. Regardless of spec, size, whatever, it is an absolute must for Spacewatch fans, including myself. I have seeded the idea into my wife's brain, so we'll see what happens next. I'm not sure if it helps that she edits these videos too. Whatever decision you make, silver or wrong, be quick. The 38mm 100m water resistant 4R36 powered watch is limited to just 9,999 pieces each. Like William Shatner trying to talk space around Jeff Bezos, it won't last long. It's a challenge to believe £280 could furnish your wrist with a watch you'd be happy to wear every day, but to give Timex its due, I think it's done it. The Marlin Jet isn't just a watch for £280, it's an interesting watch for £280. A price point where fun and flamboyance usually go to die. This here is specification territory, where even if a watch looks like a warthog listening to Trout Mask Replica, it's alright by, well, buyers. No, the 38mm Marlin Jet takes an unconventional approach to tickling a timepiece with intriguing details, like the wraparound crystal revealing a floating dial surround and the tire tread crown that makes keeping a grip on last night's curry seem easy. The bowl-shaped dial with intersecting markers takes clear inspiration from the sector dials of the 20s and 30s, but again with an approach that elevates it right onto the set of Kubrick's space adventures. It would be pretty neat if the 9 o'clock 24-hour subdial were independently adjustable, but at this price point I'm just generally relieved to know it won't give me cancer, although the state of California may disagree. On a woven fabric strap, it looks every bit the astronomer's companion. Perfect for a Coldplay gig. Trust good old Citizen to be there with a one and done that's really bringing the affordable heat, and you know full well when they can't even be bothered to name it, a bargain watch is going to be really, really good. This is the Citizen Men's Sport BM7630-80X because they spent all the budget on making it awesome and had nothing left over for the marketing department. It's stainless steel, including the bracelet, 41mm across, 100 meters water resistant, and looks like a Tag Heuer Aqua Racer, if the Tag Heuer designers had ever left the landlocked nation of Switzerland and visited the actual sea. It's bold, it's contrasty, it's crisp, and it's just £229. It may also be quartz, but with a Royal Oak-esque dial that sucks energy from a room like a recent divorcee, it never needs a battery change. Being poor never looked this good. Before I reveal my most controversial choice and make you hate me forever, please show your soon-to-be over love by giving that like button a tickle and popping a few cheeky words in the comments too. Most people watching aren't actually subscribed, so YouTube tells me, and if you're not, I would greatly appreciate you doing so. Thank you. You want my honest opinion about a single watch to wear over any other if you can't have anything else? Dude, I can call you dude, can't I? It's the Apple Watch SE. If things are tough enough to be considering just a single £200 timepiece to keep your wrist from going loco, may as well make it something that actually provides you some real practical use. An Apple Watch is, I think, a pretty stylish thing, something Moser proved to be true with the Swiss Alp watch. It's comfortable, it's usable, and it may even save your life. Yes, it can call the ambulance if you fall over or get into a crash, but what I mean is it won't get you stabbed to death like a Rolex might. Personally, I'm not desperately keen to know what flavour of sleep I had last night because I can pretty well guess by how shit I feel the next morning. But between having 0 watches on and this, I'm taking one of these every day. The only reason I don't wear one, to be honest, is because I feel like a prize pillock with 2 watches on, like a genie that needs to be freed from the wizard's evil clutches. There's a reason a zillion people have an Apple Watch. It does a good job. It's the most complete and relativistic version of the traditional wristwatch for modern audiences. The inevitable conclusion to the dissolution of mechanical and the rise of the silicon chip. Same thinking, same ingredients pretty much. Just a way of putting them all together that does something applicable to more people. And remember, no matter your situation, your wrist game could always be worse. You could have been a Williams driver circa 2022. Be thankful for the good things. Goodbye.